you a woman in medicine feeling overwhelmed and disconnected from the personal fulfillment that you desire? You're in the right place. Join Doctors Joanne and Aaron as they rewrite the rules for women in medicine. Let's begin.
Welcome to this episode where we will be talking about the power of community to build momentum. And I am here with one of my favorite people and co-host, Dr. Erin Hurley, and we'll be discussing this very important topic. And you can hear both of us talking so much about the power of community because we believe it's something that's obviously very important and it's something that we're missing in medicine. Both Erin and I believe that there's changes that need to happen in the culture of medicine. We both have our programs, we coach, and there are a few things that we're building that are in our way. So keep your eyes open because there are some things that we're building to create more community and build something different where you can come for that community. I keep on saying the same word, but to the being together and learn more. And recently we've been talking about goals, New Year's visions, and we talked about consistency in this last episode. And we decided that we needed a separate episode to really talk about this power of community in order for us to have that forward movement. So, Erin, tell us what's important. Tell us what we need to know about this topic.
Well, you talked about community being very connected to consistency and forward momentum. And I look at it as we get to borrow from other people if we have a community. And I've shared this before. You have one number, one person, you can't do any math with that. You have two people, now you can each borrow from each other. You have three people, you have five people. You can all borrow from each other's momentum. And I wanted to share some recent examples that I've seen this in action. And it made me think like behaviors and energy can be contagious, right? So somebody comes in the room and they're full of negative energy, you can catch it. And in the same way, you can catch positive behaviors and positive energy from the community you build around you. So if you're really good about building a great community, what I've seen is in my women's coaching group, we had one woman who was working on getting to sleep earlier and getting higher quality sleep. Another woman was focused on drinking more water every day. Another woman was focused on exercising every day. And what I've noticed over these past several weeks is each of those positive habits has been contagious, and all of the women showing up to the group are showing improvements in every single one of those, including myself, which is just amazing. I doubled the number of my exercise visits to the gym this week. Partly because I'm like, I'm not going to skip because I know so-and-so is now, instead of working out once a week, is working out 4 times a week. Another one of my clients worked out 8 days in a row. Another one, when she did that, talked about she felt fantastic. And she'd never felt that way before, or I had never heard her say that word fantastic. But when she caught that momentum of moving forward, caught momentum from others, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm going to go to bed earlier because I'm helping so-and-so go to bed earlier. So I love that ability to kind of catch like a disease in a bad or in a good way, that they can be contagious in a good way. And so build the right community. For me, I'm building a community around fitness. And that has been powerful. I was sharing with Joanne earlier. Last week, I showed up to the Saturday morning group and there were 4 of us. And then we actually expanded that group. Several of us invited someone to join us. So this week, my husband came along, another attendee brought one of their friends along, and we went from 4 people attending to 10. And the positive momentum we each shared with each other, cheering each other on as we went from station to station, was so powerful and contagious, as opposed to me doing a workout at my house by myself in a silo. Completely different dynamics and a difference in momentum and my likelihood of continuing to do this. I don't want to disappoint them. I want to see them in class next week too.
I love that idea of catching momentum. It's like a catchy phrase to be redundant on purpose. because you're right. And again, we can get scientific and be all about mirror neurons and things like that. And our brain will usually mimic the negative more than the positive. And part of it is the brain doing its brain thing when it's conservation of energy and increased pleasure, decreased pain. And frequently our brain interprets something else as work. And it's so important to have that intention of looking out for those positive vibrations and really want to mirror that and have our brain copy that. I love that. And the other thing that I heard in you using that example was how I finished the last episode of the celebration. Like, I love the fact that you know these details about these people, because it means that they shared it with enthusiasm and you probably cheered each other on. And then, like you're saying, then you're like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me do that as well. And then you know that you are influencing them as well. So we have that sense of responsibility too, of showing up as our best selves, because we're being role models. We're being influential the other way, as the same way that others can be for us. And that's part of that power of community. I had like this beautiful visual as I heard you say that example. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I think when we look at a community too, we can also have a negative community. If you get together with individuals and all you do is complain about things, or you vent to each other in an unhealthy manner. Joanne talked about this a little in our last episode about removing things, or maybe it was 2 episodes ago, where what do you need to remove? And if you have people in your community that are adding too much negative or too frequent negative, you may need to either remove them or decrease how much you're in community with them, because again, that can also kind of influence your outcome. And they talk about you are most like the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So we need to be really careful with who are we spending so much time with. And if your community stinks right now, then I want to encourage you to go out and find one new person to put in your community that is going to help build you up, hold you accountable, and help that contagion of positivity influence you.
Love that you're mentioning that, because this is research based. We're not making this up. Multiple research that shows that we are alike those people that we have proximity with in terms of our habits, even our weight, our finances, our kind of the way we think of families and the way we think about jobs. And it's incredible. It sounds sad, but it's also very hopeful. And then thinking, what do I need around me? Again, the power of community. And it's not like you have to change everyone in your life, but if there's something that you want that you're struggling with, or it's more difficult for you to reach, think of, can I add someone else in my life who's doing this very well? And I can learn from them. I can get inspired by them. I can be cheered by them. And that's a great way to leverage, as I was saying in the last episode, and a way to move forward faster with more power.
And for some people, adding to their community is very difficult or may not seem obvious. I know for me, I didn't add to my girlfriend community until I was 50 and started working with my coach. And she's like, Erin, where's your girlfriends? And I'm like, well, I kind of had to let them go because I'm busy working and, doing leadership positions, and I have a family. And she encouraged me to get girlfriends back in my life. And now, as Joanne and I have talked about, having them in my life is a non-negotiable. They're here to stay. And if you need help with that, again, find other people who are building community. As someone who's on my local medical society board, on an organ wellness program, really focused on the mental health and well-being, specifically for healthcare providers, I'm helping build community through the group coaching I have. Joanne does the same through her group coaching, through the wellness program that I'm building through the medical society. So if you don't know how to start your community, just ask someone who has successfully done that, or maybe join theirs. And so it doesn't have to all fall on your shoulders and be like, oh gosh, one more thing. If that's too overwhelming, just reach out and seek some support in finding a good community for you.
And our listener might be thinking, yeah, that sounds easy, but how can I start? Or, yes, that sounds like a great idea. And these are things that we know. This is not new, I bet, but yet it's so difficult. Like, no, I know I've struggled with it. And then I tend to do good for a little while, and then I tend to isolate a little bit again. And then I start to not feel well. So I know what's missing and I reach out. But Erin, what do you think gets in our way?
So much gets in our way, especially as women physicians who are tasked with so much. One of the first things that gets in our way is our real inability to ask for help. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you've probably heard me encourage you to ask for help more often. And it may seem like getting into a community and being able to lean on them may be too close to asking for help. But what I'd like to point out is oftentimes, if somebody's asking me for accountability as their coach, they may not realize, it may seem like a burden. Oh, if I'm texting Erin or sharing with her when I do my workout or when I go to bed or whatever it is, that's a burden on her. What they're not realizing is they're also giving a benefit to me, because now I'm holding myself more accountable when I'm holding them accountable. So oftentimes it's a two-way street. So don't always look at asking for help as a negative. The next area we struggle with is guilt and shame. Maybe our listener can relate to that, because you may not want to share what it is you're struggling with. It may be embarrassing. You may think no one else in the world has this problem. Like when I had my Eliminate After Hours charting course, and I had 2 women one week and then the next week say the exact same thing. I am the worst charter in the world for getting their charts done for patient care. And I said, you ladies are in good company. They were in the little Zoom boxes right next to each other. They thought they were all alone, and they weren't. And when they were able to open up about what they were really struggling with, that was when they were able to lean into the power of that community, which was focused on charting efficiencies, and not feel so isolated, and again, gain momentum from the others who were struggling with the same thing. A couple more here. We might be out of practice for being in community. We might be so focused on work and family. And so maybe it means signing up for a 5K. Maybe it means volunteering at a community organization. So doing something sporadic and then seeing if you get some joy out of that, or if you feel connected to that community. And lastly, when we're so short on time and energy, do you really have the capacity to do one more thing? And yet, when I see my clients that I coach have a healthy balance between work and play, between engaging in their duties and investing in time for themselves and having connections with friends and healthy communities, they do so much better levels of well-being and much lower levels of burnout and even dread.
That's so important. And I love how often we feel like we're struggling by ourselves. And then we have that power of community. It's not just to build momentum, but so that we don't feel that we're unique in our struggles. In that it's not like we're broken. It's not like there's something that we're doing wrong. It's we frequently struggle with some of the same things. And then on top of that, we can help each other out with a lot of love and compassion. It's incredible the things that I hear often. And it's when one person is vulnerable, it allows the other person to also open up. So again, another great side effect of community. It's great. So Erin, we talked about why it's important. We talked about what gets in our way. What can we do? What are some more specific tools that we can have to help us with this community and the power of momentum through community?
We don't need to overcomplicate it. So I have a few suggestions. We talked last time about being consistent and starting with small steps. You can do something as simple as volunteering. Maybe it's once a year, once a month. That's a community that's already built. And usually people who volunteer are pretty positive, nice, engaging people. And so that's a community you can borrow from that's already established. So look for some volunteer opportunities. Find another group, again, a fitness group or a hobby group or something that, a music group, whatever it is that interests you, and try that out. Introduce yourself to a neighbor. Say hi over the fence. Go for a walk around your neighborhood. It doesn't have to be really complicated, and start a conversation with a stranger. Usually you're going to have a great outcome, and your anxiety of talking with somebody that you don't know is going to come up with some positive outcomes. And you can also do something as simple as scheduling a phone call with a friend. Maybe it's once a week, once a month, so that you stay in contact. And lastly, there's such power in just sending a simple text. And as Joanne and I have shared, so many heavy things going on in the world. Some people we know have been affected by, at the time of the recording, in the recent aftermath of the LA fires. And so I've been staying in community with my friend, sending her a text every few days or so. And just sending something as simple as a text to someone you care about, or maybe somebody that you know is going through something rough. As Joanne and I are recording this, many communities are still struggling in the aftermath of the LA fires, the Palisade fires, and someone who's near and dear to me was very affected. And I just sent her texts every few days or so. And I said, you know where to find me, and I hope it's okay to send texts every once in a while. I don't want to bombard you, but I'm thinking about you often. And I know that so many people care about you deeply and are invested in helping you find your way out of this challenging time. And heart emojis. And she says, thank you, friend. Text as much as you want. It pulls me into the light. And then I sent her a funny gift that goes along with that. And that is not only pulling her back into this loving community that she has built in our friendships, but it's also, my hope is just letting her know, remember, my friend, we're thinking about you. You have somewhere to go. And it's just an offer of extending love and friendship without expecting anything in return. And my hope is that you build a community so that if something happens in your life, you have individuals that are going to be looking out for you, and you're not having to deal with it all on your own.
So important the way you say it, that we can start small and keep it simple, and the ripple effects could be just as big, as we've noticed in these days of post tragedies, and how we can support each other. That it's not always about the forward momentum to have goals and success, but then also, even more importantly, to have people beside you in times of need, and to be of help for others. That can be just as gratifying as Erin was telling us. This is so important. And I love, again, the idea of catching momentum and the importance of community for that, and importance of proximity, like Erin was just saying, of who is around you, not just to influence you and to move you forward, but also to support you and cheer you on as you need. And we always talk about how we need to have more self-compassion, because this is not as easy as it sounds. And we struggle so much with asking for help. I know that that's one thing that I struggle with and I work on, and that sometimes when we're struggling, we feel like we're alone, and we've had guilt and shame, and that just adds to it all. And to understand that we're really not alone. It's worth the investment of it, and how it can start as easy as texting, as sending a love note. And yes, it takes a little bit more effort to find a volunteer group or start your own group, but we've heard the importance of it. We cannot just stay with the excuse of I don't have time and energy. If we want to feel better, we need to have that sense of accountability and do something about it. And it can be just with a couple of people. So it really makes a difference. And I was laughing as I was hearing you, Erin, in the examples that you were giving us, because I'll tell you all something. Erin is so good at the talk to a stranger. You know how we tell the kids, don't talk to strangers. Erin has mastered that. We sometimes we're in conferences and we're walking along and then we move around. It's like, where's Erin? And then we have to look back and she's having some beautiful conversation with someone, and then we have a new friend. Then we all benefit because then she brings that person along, and then we've expanded our circle with so many people that Erin has connected us with. So if you're not great at it, have a friend like Erin and she'll do it for you, and then she'll just introduce you to more friends and make the community bigger. So Erin, is there something that came to mind that you haven't shared that be good for us to hear as in this topic of community and momentum?
Well, as you bring up that being able to talk to a stranger, I wasn't always like that. I was a little bit more shy when I was younger, and I took leadership through karate with my kids. And so the power of practice, we had to practice over and over again, introducing ourselves. Hi, my name is Erin Hurley, and you are? And then you would practice introducing somebody to a friend over every Saturday at these leadership classes over and over again. It helped me so that I could introduce myself to people, sitting next to them on the train or on the airplane or in a conference. And it was a skill that can be learned. So if that's not your superpower, like I've developed it into one of mine, practice and see what happens. So it's not too late.
And I'm benefiting from that. So I'm so glad that you worked on it. And we hope that you are all benefiting from this as you were listening to Erin and the positive effects of bringing a friend to her workout class and how that made it exponentially better. Please share this podcast with a friend, someone that you believe can benefit from it. That's how we're going to keep on growing and getting to more people. We love the feedback and we greatly appreciate it. And with this, stay tuned for our next episode.
Do you want exclusive resources and the opportunity to connect with us? Then visit createmeaninginmedicine.com now, where you'll dive deeper into how you can create meaning in medicine. And if you're serious about optimizing your results, take 2 quick steps now. Connect with us on the website and tune in to the next episode.